the possibility of not loving oneself, to hide from the world, to find a means of deceit that can be plied day after day and year after year. With a smile on your face and a heavy heart. What is your expectation of your life? I am 63 years old today. And I figure if I play my cards right, I've got maybe about 20 to 25 more years in me. And hopefully most of those I'll be cognizant of who I am. But it's not guaranteed. Many of us consider the fact that we've got plenty of time. I don't know about you, but when I need to be somewhere at a certain time, I reverse engineer. I take a look at how long Google says I have to get there, and then I consider the weather, consider the time of day, reacclimate, and take off. There's just one problem with this scenario. I cannot Google the end of my life. Let us consider for a moment that maybe time is just a little bit limited. And like a drunken sailor spending freely on payday, we all think that we've got more than enough adequate time to do what we want to do, to say what we want to say, to be who we want to be. But what if you're wrong? I want to stop here for just a moment and notate something. A lot of people talk to me about my laugh and the fact that they like it, and they also talk to me about the fact that I seem to tear up here a lot. Today will be no exception, I promise you. But I want you to understand where this comes from, because it's very important as part of today's sermon, if you will. And by the way, I hate calling these things I do sermons. I'm an atheist. It seems, I don't know. Many years ago, I took some courses, and I'm not advertising here, I'm just letting you know where I took the courses from Landmark Education. It's considered Est Light. It was also by Warner Earhart. And I took a lot of courses there. And in one of the courses that I took was an exercise led by a name no other than Pericles, because that's who led the exercise, Pericles. I thought it was a fantastic name. And he asked all of us to be present to our life. That if we read the paper and it moved us to laugh, that we should laugh. And if we read the paper and it moved us to cry, we should cry. And in that power of presence, you could authentically be in that moment. And that is why I laugh the way I laugh, and I cry the way I cry. And I make no apologies for it. And neither should you. Now, back to the program previously in progress. I wonder, in the course of everyday life, of looking at our phones and looking at our phones, and yes, looking at our phones, if maybe somehow we're not really present? Nah, couldn't be. I took a vacation to Ecuador and went to the Galapagos. By the way, I just want you to know, in the Galapagos, there is no cellular reception. Zero. I mean, zero. And so all there was to be present to the 8 other people on the boat and crew, as well as all the other wildlife that was around us. And if you've ever snorkeled with sea lions, let me tell you, it's a good time. It's a hell of a lot better than being on your phone. Okay? Or looking at the sea tortoises floating around you as a sort of a odd ballet, or the sea iguanas eating grass below the water, which seems surreal. Or looking at the puffins, or the penguins, or the blue-footed boobies, or any number of other odd things that were running around the islands for 14 days. Presence. It's a treasure chest. How many times do we listen to people in our life? No, I mean, listen. If I hear that conversation one more time, I swear to the Almighty. No, you're not listening. You're listening, but you're not listening to them. How many of you have a hard time going to sleep at night? Why? I mean, it could be any number of reasons, but normally it's because you're not present. You're thinking about tomorrow. You're thinking about all the things you didn't do today. In the moment, you are tired, and yet you cannot be in the moment. Pausing drives people wild that aren't present because they're waiting for my next word. People want to have enlightenment. They want enlightenment now. Have you ever tried to play a sport or pick up an instrument or learn a language and not know why in a week you are not the master of what it is that you are attempting to do? A week. Give yourself a break. Just try. Try to be present to who you are for other people. Try to be present for yourself. Try to be present for all those that you don't even know. You know, one of the reasons that I love this congregation is because they give me a very wide and long leash to screw things up. To screw things up. And it doesn't mean anything. It just means I'm trying. But they give you the same leash. You do know that, right? There is so much love here. There is no ulterior agenda. On cue. No ulterior agenda. There's just presence. Enlightenment does not have an off-ramp. It has no sign. It doesn't flash in the night. If you're not present, if you're not living in the moment, if you're not worried about the significance of your existence or that of others, then maybe you'll see it. Maybe you'll be able to experience it. Maybe you'll be able to recreate it. My grandfather taught me how to golf. He said, "Grandson, you've got to keep your eye on the ball. And you've got to," and he gave me the grips and everything like that, and he said, "It's nothing but a repetitive motion. Repetitive, repetitive, repetitive." Repetitive. Most people don't want to deal in a behavior that just keeps repeating itself. But that's the only way you master something, isn't it? Through repetition. We can't even be present in the moment we're trying to do something for ourselves that will give ourselves a whole new talent or area of expressing ourselves. We become, in many ways, frustrated and, well, I just wasn't supposed to do this. I was never meant to learn to play the guitar. I was never meant to play the piano. I was never meant to juggle. I was never meant to do this, and I was never meant to do that. And then you move on to the next thing, which wasn't intended for you, obviously, because, again, it just didn't come to you immediately. Thank gosh most parents don't use that type of philosophy. Trial and error. Trial and error. What is the intent of what you are doing? Do you know what the intent is? Do you know what you're doing? I read a book when I was 8 because I was precocious, and it was called Jonathan Livingston Seagull by Richard Bach. Now, many of the youngsters here are going to go, Jonathan Livingston Seagull? It was a tome about yay thick. Okay? You could read it in maybe a little over an hour if you were taking your sweet time. And I was in the back of a 72 Ford Escort, I don't know, the wood paneling, the whole 9 yards, in the very back, reading this book. A young atheist in training, if you will. And for Jonathan, it was all about perfection. That he never went to heaven, because heaven never existed. It was just a case of perfecting and learning how to move your wing in just the right way to catch the wind and get yourself a little bit faster, or bring your beak down, or tuck your legs in, right? And he did it over and over and over again. Life after life. What is it that you do that you've perfected? Do you love? Do you love with all your heart? Do you love nature? Do you love watching a bird just hop around the sidewalk? For no particular reason. As long as it stays there hopping around, you are fascinated. Streaming? Who needs streaming? I've got this. We live in strange times. We live in times of horror. But there is joy in the background. We just have to bring it to the fore. It's up to us to create the world that we want. It just is. The media is not going to do it for you because it doesn't sell. How often do you read? How often do you reflect? How often do you make life insignificant? Just insignificant. You know how many times you can watch people make life significant in front of you? It's truly endless, isn't it? Every petty little tiny thing. Hamster wheeling. You ever watch a hamster wheel? I mean, really wheel. Man, they're going to town. Wouldn't it be great if you could stop them and say, dude, what are you doing? You know, maybe we should think about us and our hamster wheeling. Every day we get up and we've got our agenda. And here's how the day's going to go. What does he want? Tell him, Billy. Do you put away a day just for fun? I mean fun. You should. It has no reason for that day. It's so you can grin like a fool and just enjoy yourself. And put all the things away of significance. You can wander and wonder. Wander and wonder. And wander and wonder some more. Where have you always wanted to go? Anybody? Where have you always wanted to go? When are you going to go? You know, I'm going to go there when I retire. I'm going to go there when I'm done with my professional life. I'm going to go there when I have the time. I'm going to go there when the kids are grown. I'm going to go there before I have kids. I'm going to go. But you never get there. But it was a good idea. Enlightenment. What does it mean to be enlightened? Am I better than everyone else because I'm enlightened? You know how you know a rich man's rich? Because they don't tell you about it. They don't flaunt it. You know how a powerful person is powerful? Because they don't put your nose in it every chance they get. You know how an enlightened person is enlightened? because they know it's only for a moment. They don't get to keep it. And the moment's gone. Jack Kornfield talks about enlightenment. You notice how we always build things up to be like a Hollywood movie? There's this glow that comes from the back of the theater, and the wind rises up, the thunder and lightning come down, and there stands the enlightened one. But the enlightened one has to go home. The enlightened one has to change dirty diapers. The enlightened one has to wake up and go to work. Wander and wonder. Now you're going to do what you're going to do. There's no wrong and there's no right. And there's no truth. And woe betide the man who thinks there is, or woman, or other, or whoever they may be. Our society is unique in how we handle pressure and being right and being wrong. Not every society is like ours, thank the stars. But maybe someday when you go there, you read about it. Maybe then you can appreciate the difference. I leave you with this one little pause. We close with the words of Ram Dass. In a non-traditional culture such as ours, dominated by technology, we value information far more than we do wisdom. But there is a difference between the two. Information involves the acquisition, organization, and dissemination of facts, a storing up of physical data. But wisdom involves another equally crucial function, the emptying and quieting of the mind, the application of the heart, and the alchemy of reason and feeling. We're standing back and viewing the whole, discerning what matters and what does not, weighing the meaning and depth of things. This quality of wisdom is rare in our culture. More often we have knowledgeable people who pretend to be wise, but who unfortunately have not cultivated the quality of mind from which wisdom truly arises. Here again, go in peace. Go in love, and let's see if I can pronounce this right, I Malalma, which means take care in Hawaiian.